Hi, everybody. We are going to be diving into the lovely world of allergies. And the reason why we decided to jump into this topic when we were having this lovely discussion that we do every time of what do you want to talk about? As Nicole proceeded to sneeze and cough up a lung, we're like, that. Let's talk about that. We are definitely in the middle of allergy season. I may or may not be in the process of getting hit with that as well. So not only are we going to be talking about allergy season as a whole, we're going to be living firsthand of what it's like to continue to try to function in the midst of all of that.
Totally. So we kind of wanted to just, well, first, pardon my voice and for any coughs, eye-watering business that I experience over here.
Makes it more
Um,
sincere.
totally. But we really just wanted to kind of talk about, like what from our two perspectives does chiropractic and nutrition separately have to do with supporting allergies? And then lastly, kind of talk about how that blends into real life application. And I just want to talk about what I've been doing for myself this week to support my allergies and how it's helped me to feel better and kind of get through this a little bit faster.
Yeah, a little bit faster, but never fast enough. Always. Don't care how quick it is.
Totally.
So I would say
Totally.
big thing from the nutrition perspective is that anytime a sickness kind of pops up, one little tidbit that I always emphasize, and I push this on Nicole a lot, even just last night, is hydration. It's one of those things to where you don't feel the greatest and you're just mentally distracted by kind of how you're feeling. You're more concerned about where's the tissue box than you are about where's the water bottle. But when you are going through the lovely allergies and all that comes with it, you're kicking out a lot of fluid in multiple manners. One manner is the fact that a lot of times when you do have allergies, naturally, you have a lot of mucus that starts to build up and congestion within your nose, making it tougher to breathe through your nose. So, especially at night, that can result in a little bit more mouth breathing. And when we breathe through our mouth, when the body brings in that air, it needs to moisten it. And just that inhale and exhalation through the mouth results in a lot more fluid loss. Like, especially in the wintertime, if you go up to a window and you just like breathe on it and you see that fog kind of pops up and you draw the heart or whatever the heck you want to in it, that's the moisture from your body leaving. So you don't see it every time, but when breathing through your mouth, you lose a lot of excess fluid. When we lose that fluid, our airways start to get some cracks in them and expose us to catching a cold and can potentially prolong how we're feeling by getting some additional stuff. But not only that, when we are dehydrated, everything else in the body slows down, including the immune system, the body's ability to be able to process and kick out any of the lovely junk that's kind of building up. And it's just incredibly important to be able to stay on top of that as best you can. So, out of sight, out of mind, you're not really thinking about it because, again, you don't feel great. As I said before, you're more so going to be focused on where's the Kleenex box than you are where the water bottle is. But you need to stay on top of that. It can be incredibly beneficial to even just set a specific goal, like every hour consuming X amount. So that way you have a schedule and routine as opposed to relying on thirst. Because again, the body's going to be distracted by everything else and you're not going to think about it.
Totally. And I tend to get fall allergies really bad. And so that's kind of what's circulating in the air right now. But we are at home going through a little bit, I don't want to say a sleep regression, but a lot of transition with Paxton. He's getting some new teeth. He started in a new room. His sleep has not been as good as usual. And I've also had some really big deadlines at the office, and all of that is good and all that is great. And it's pushing me in a lot of good ways, but it's cut into my sleep a lot, which means I've been having more coffee and more caffeine than usual. And that means I have been drinking less water than usual. And it kind of had led me in the cycle. I was most certainly dehydrated, and it kind of brought on these allergies maybe worse than they would have been had I just been hydrated. And so Jay did get on me like this last night because I had not had a sip of water from the time I got home last night until I went to bed. And he said, "Where's your water bottle?" Generally, I've been trying to drink more water to help with some of that. And I do find if I am more hydrated, especially because I have a job where I talk all day long, I'm again losing moisture when I'm speaking all day, making sure I replenish those water stores or hydration stores from both water and things like bone broth. I just had a cup of bone broth. It was great. An element electrolyte pack, doing things like that is really a helpful thing to be doing to kind of speed up kind of like the crud that I'm feeling. And honestly, it kind of knocked my sinus headache right out of the water. which was like the first symptom that I got, and I was like, oh no, this is all starting. Started as a sinus headache, and just drinking water like knocked it right out of the park. So it really just is kind of to emphasize how important being hydrated is all of the time, but especially if you're starting to feel run down or if allergies are starting to kick you in the butt a little bit.
And I would say too, you mentioned the sinus headache. One of the symptoms of being dehydrated is also headaches. So a lot of times we just lump it all together that when we're feeling crummy and crappy, we're like, allergies, sinuses. When in reality, some of that can be controllable. And by just making sure that we're staying hydrated, we can, if not eliminate some of those things, at least make them better, improve upon it a little bit. Same thing from an overall grogginess, muscle soreness aspect of things. When the body's dehydrated, the muscles are more susceptible to those little micro tears and just breaking them down a little bit more. So that soreness is going to be more present, especially if you're still trying to work in any physical activity along the way. So by making sure you stay on top of that hydration piece, you're going to decrease the odds of a headache popping up. Not going to say you're going to completely avoid them, but you decrease the odds of those popping up. You're going to decrease the severity of those overall body aches from popping up. And you're also going to be able to help make sure that you're able to sleep a little bit better. Because going back to the dehydration piece, when you're dehydrated, your heart starts to pump a little bit quicker. And that's going to result in you just naturally being a little bit more fatigued with everything. And as soon as the body has to work a little bit harder, you're naturally not going to be able to rest as well. An awesome new article just came out last week. I think I talked about it in my, but it's a strong paper that drew from the correlation that as we become more dehydrated, our cortisol levels increase and the body's ability to navigate and manage stress becomes worse. So, just like your body is trying to fight off everything that's going on, you're going to get a stress response, an inflammatory response to try to combat that. When you're dehydrated, that just gets augmented and becomes even more noticeable and impactful. So, we want to make sure, long story short, that you have a water bottle on hand and that you're staying hydrated.
Totally.
Stamp it.
Stamp it. Yeah. I mean, I would even say, just as a reminder to everyone, like I treat headaches and various other things like that all day long for a living. And my job is to help people physically feel better in their own body and to make their body more resilient to stress. And I forget these things often. Like I try really hard to practice what I preach, but sometimes we just get caught up in the day-to-day life. And like Jay said, you just suddenly are like, I'm having an extra cup of coffee. Where's the tissue box? And you're not thinking about water anymore. And so some of this may feel basic, redundant, like, well, of course, if you're dehydrated, you're going to feel like crap. But I can say for a fact that, I mean, I feel like pretty much every patient I see at some point, we have to talk about water and hydration. And like, I could do better. And it's really just kind of bringing back the awareness of it of, oh, you're right. Because it is so basic and we've been told since we were like 2 years old to be hydrated and drink water, we kind of forget about it sometimes. And so the water drastically helped my headache, but also like I got adjusted. I did sinus drainage massage. I did lymphatic drainage massage. I've been doing a lot of extra things to help move mucus out of my body, which is definitely helping me get over this faster rather than slower. And so, from a chiropractic perspective, we're really trying to increase the amount of stress that your nervous system can take on. So, just kind of as what Jay was saying, if you're dehydrated, cortisol is going to go up. Your nervous system is at a higher level of stress to start with. The threshold is lower, or there's less stress that the body can accommodate to. The adjustments are trying to kind of counteract that. And so if you can be hydrated and get adjusted, we can increase that capacity so much more of how much your body can handle. And it can help either A, not get sick in the first place, but B, if you're not feeling good, help you get over that so much faster. And so I think that's a really big thing to consider. And it helps a lot when you don't feel good, but it's not going to have the same impact of like, I'm just going to come when I feel sick, because it's not going, you need the consistency and the buildup of it for it to actually be effective.
And especially too, when it's allergies, it's not necessarily as though it's a sickness. It's your body's physiological response to the exposure. So if you have like a ragweed allergy, unless you completely eliminate ragweed from the world, your body is still going to have that response. Like for individuals who have a nut allergy, your body just responds to it. It's not as though you can do something to avoid being sick. Now, yes, over time, some individuals' sensitivities and the severity of those allergies may differ and wane here or there. But at the end of the day, your body's going to respond to that. So it's more so being able to just keep the body in a good spot to be able to manage it as best as possible. And that's what all this is designed to do. So, from the nutrition perspective as well, outside of just staying hydrated, it comes back to being able to, just like Nicole was saying from the chiropractic piece, help the body be able to increase its threshold of what it can withstand. And this ties into just overall inflammation control. The body's going to respond to that allergen coming into the body with a stress response, with an inflammatory response. To be able to help combat that, we want to make sure that we're doing, surprise, surprise, another recommendation that we've been getting since we were little kids: eat your broccoli, eat your fruits, eat your vegetables, get those antioxidants in. It's going to make sure that your body has everything that it needs to put the best foot forward, to have that immune system be as strong as possible, to bring that inflammation down and speed up that recovery time as quick as possible. We're currently in the process of trying to get Paxton to enjoy asparagus. Big struggle. The floor is becoming a big consumer of it. But it's just continuing to make sure we have those fruits and vegetables readily available. Hopefully, we all are able to consume our vegetables a little bit better than the little guy is right now. But that's the name of the game. It's not going to, again, completely eliminate it. It's not going to allow us to avoid it completely. It's just going to help the body to be able to manage and process it better. So, in addition to consuming those things to boost that immune system, we also want to make sure that we're not increasing the inflammation itself from the foods that we're eating. So, we want to make sure that we're limiting the common items that we know aren't going to be the greatest for us. The fried food, the highly processed candies and things like that. We got Halloween around the corner. We got a candy bowl dish in the office as well. So enjoy it, but just know it's not going to be great for your overall inflammatory aspects of things. So be mindful of that and be mindful of alcohol. Those are going to be the heavy hitters. It's nothing earth shattering, but it's just during this time being a little bit more mindful of it.
Yeah, and I would say for myself personally, we had Buckeye Donuts on Sunday. I felt this little sniffly headache pressure thing coming on, and I thought, "Ah, man, I really should pick something that's not Buckeye Donuts to eat for dinner."
Zero regrets.
Um, yeah, and so right, like this is exactly my point. Like I have zero regrets for eating it. It was delicious. I enjoyed every bite of it. My donut was great. I'm so happy with our choice. I paid for it on Monday. I was dehydrated. I ate inflammatory food. And like with everything in life, there's a trade off. So you have to be like, okay, socially, this is going to bring me a lot of joy. So I'm going to do this. And it's not about living a picture perfect life all the time. And I think that's what people, ask Jay and I. I feel I was telling a patient the other day, like, we're the worst two people to take to a party because people are like, oh, what do you do for a living? It's like, I'm a chiropractor. I'm a dietitian. Oh my God, let me ask you all these questions about my body. And like,
The
sometimes I
default.
just want to say,
I'm an
like,
accountant. Nobody asks questions if
yeah,
you say you're an accountant.
nobody wants to
Outside
know
of
about
March
that.
and tax season.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, people ask us all the time, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you do all these things? And I think the reality is, like, behind closed doors, people aren't realizing that we actually like live a little. We have fun and we aren't perfect 24/7. And sometimes by result, that means we had more caffeine than we intended, which meant we weren't sleeping as good. So we got dehydrated and our body got run down. And we picked up a bug or our body didn't respond to allergies as well as we had hoped. And that is life. And at the end of the day, I can confidently say, like, I don't feel miserable. I actually feel pretty fine. I just sound a little congested and my eye keeps watering and it's more annoying than anything. But we're getting through it. And I think this is a good, like, really teachable lesson of you don't have to be perfect all of the time, and just knowing when to kind of sharpen the wellness tools you're using versus for times where you could be a little bit more lax depending on like what you're trying to optimize for in your life, I think is really important. But the baseline of, being hydrated, eating a balanced diet that's getting lots of fruits and veggies with those antioxidants to help with your overall inflammation, and doing something to support the capacity of your immune system, whether that's getting adjusted, consistent breath work and meditation, grounding outside. Like there has to be some baseline stuff happening, because if you just start throwing this stuff in when you get an ounce of an I don't feel good for any reason, a headache, allergies, a cold, the flu, it's not going to work. You're just not going to see any sort of good or consistent results.
Yeah, and it most certainly is the balance piece too, because just continuing to use us as the example, yeah, we absolutely had Buckeye Donuts. The chicken tender basket with the fries and the Cajun sauce, stellar. Recommend it, 10 out of 10. But then here this week, our lunches. Our salads. We don't always have salads for lunch, but it was one of those things too where it's like meal prep. We know that we had something that we probably shouldn't necessarily have every single day. We're not feeling the greatest. How can we combat that? So it's understanding the picture as a whole of what does the body need, what do we need, and then finding that balance of everything to be able to still enjoy the foods that you want to enjoy, but also making sure that your body still has everything that it needs to function optimally. Because regardless of how you're feeling, still need to function optimally. Like again, a lot of times if we don't feel 100%, still got to kind of show up to work. So it's just making sure that we navigate all of that to be able to put our best foot forward.
Totally. And I mean, I would even say too for myself, like I get adjusted every Monday. It's something I do once a week, and that has been great. But I also would say I got adjusted again this week because there's so much benefit in having that boost adjustment to help support my nervous system and my immune system. Beyond that, there's very specific chiropractic techniques that work specifically on the cranium or the skull in our sinus cavities. It is helping move pressure and lymph out of my head so I feel less congested. I can talk better and I just overall feel better. So there's definitely a time and place to add in that extra care. And something I love more than anything is like being able to work on somebody's sinuses because it is so instantly relieving to be like, I can't breathe when I'm laying here. This is really a miserable time to all of a sudden being like, wow, I'm like 90% better. And then teaching people how to do that at home. It's really life changing. It's great. It makes a huge difference. And it's something that I think it's a cool thing that chiropractic can do when you find the provider that's trained in it because not many people realize that we can help with sinus congestion.
And not to be outdone, there's nutrition things you can do as well. Sort of. Again,
Yes.
there's the hydration piece, but I think one thing that I typically recommend and something that I do with the teams that I work with, anytime that we're going to a different location, like with US Soccer when we're traveling internationally, really try to kind of lean into local honey anytime that we're utilizing it to be able to provide just that little bit of exposure to the system, to be able to provide that immune system and exposure of like, hey, this is the pollen, this is the type of just kind of overall plants that the body's going to be exposed to be able to help boost that immune system right away. So as opposed to all of a sudden just getting hit and crushed by going outside with everything, having some of those microdose exposures is just another way to be able to help enhance the body's immune system to that, to be able to respond to that and get it prepared. Just like if you get an immune shot, what those are is a microdose of that sickness itself to be able to help send that signal to the immune system. We're like, hey, this is here. We need to make sure that we're prepared and ready to combat that. So going with the local honey is one thing to be able to assist with that. And it also just tastes really good.
Yeah. I mean, we tend to be farmers market people when we can with a 1 year old, but yeah, I mean, we buy local honey when we can, and I've had that with my tea this week, and it's been lovely. So 10 out of 10 would recommend.
But yeah, those are the big things. And I guess the last little thing, at least from my end, that I would recommend is truly, again, nothing crazy, but just making sure each hour you just do a little bit of movement. It's another time and situation to where you're not feeling the greatest. You don't want to move. But that regular movement is just going to be able to help the blood circulate a little bit better. And that's going to be incredibly important during this time period because we want that blood to not only be delivered, to send all those antioxidants and all the great food that you're consuming to the rest of the body to battle everything, we also want that blood to be returned, to go to the liver, go to the kidneys, to kick out everything that it's starting to break down. It just helps make sure that entire process continues to function optimally. And so, whenever I give the recommendation of moving hourly, I always put the disclaimer and just the emphasis of I'm not asking you to run a mile every hour on the hour. It can literally just be stand up, do some stretches, do some body squats for 30 seconds, if that. You just want to make sure that you are stimulating that movement, stimulating that blood flow to get everything circulating within the body. That's going to be able to clear things out a little bit quicker. That's going to be able to deliver the good stuff a little bit better. And if you think about it, that's why typically, if you try to kind of push yourself a little bit, and if you've ever exercised or done a light little bike ride or anything while not feeling the greatest, especially from a sinus aspect of things, you can breathe better because it's helping the body to process and just move all that stuff out to help you recover. So don't feel as though you need to go run a mile every hour. Don't feel as though you need to have the hardest intensity workout every single day when you're feeling sick. but just that light, regular movement is going to be able to expedite things.
Yeah, and I would say, for me this week, I have been sticking with my workouts, but I kind of scaled them back a little bit. I chose a little bit lighter weight. I started with a little bit more body weight stuff, doing the movement, just body weight first, like, okay, how does this feel in my body? And then gradually picking up weight because I still wanted to move and I still wanted to be intentional about my movement, even though I felt like I would rather not do that. I felt so much better after moving my body, and it just kind of reinforces exactly what Jay just said. But something I have to be cautious of, and for people who don't sit at a desk all day like me, I move all day. And so I've had to actually incorporate a little bit more rest and recovery into my week because usually I am just go, go, go nonstop. And I don't have to set a timer and be like, oh, every hour I'm going to get up and move because I move for 8 hours a day straight. And I finally sit down and go, oh, gosh. So for me, I've had to spend a little bit more time being intentional of stretching on the floor during playtime. So the last couple of nights when Pax has been playing in his playpen, I've been in there with him stretching rather than holding him and bouncing him and things like that.
And he
Um,
treats you like a
because
jungle gym.
I
Everybody wins.
he does. He does. And it's great. And it's just the season that we're in, but it's just a reminder of, and we've talked about this in other videos we've done, but the harder you work your body, the harder you have to recover. And when you are under the weather, have allergies, your body is fighting something that is a version of performing. In a sense, you're asking your body to do something on top of all the other stuff you're already asking it to do. So you just need to be mindful of getting some better recovery in. So for me, that this week has still been some intentional movement, but intentional stretching and getting some better sleep. Those things have really helped and something I would encourage you to try at home too if you're starting to kind of, think about how can you boost your immune system, prevent allergies, and if you do have them, how you can, combat those symptoms a little bit easier.
Yeah, and it helps. We can get to bed a little bit early. When your Reds dictate the outcome of the game a little bit early, when
Yeah.
you're playing out in
Yeah.
LA and first pitch is at 9 p.m., can result in a late day. But hopefully tonight stops it on the spectrum. Hopefully you guys can go ahead by 20 runs and we can go to bed after the second inning.
Yeah, it'd be great, but that's Ohio sports for you.
Fair point. Fair point. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's everything that I really got for the lovely allergies. Apologies if anyone was hoping we were going to have the magic answer of like this is how you avoid them, how you never get them, how you eliminate them in 5 seconds. Doesn't work like that. But hopefully
Yeah,
there's a few little takeaways at least to be able to help you expedite that process.
totally. And if you have more questions for us or if we can be of any help, you can click below and you can learn more about us and check out some of our free resources. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks everybody. See ya.